Good morning. Was that a good intro? Thank you, Sally. So, I want to go back a little bit. I want to tell you the earliest reference to agility that I've ever found. And it goes back a bit. A mighty oak was uprooted by the winds and thrown across the reeds, to which it thus addressed, "How is it that you, who are so small and weak, survive, whereas I, who are tall and strong, am broken?" To which the reeds respond, "You fight against the wind, whereas we bend beneath the least breeze and thus survive." Anyone familiar with the story? Oak and the Reeds, Aesop's Fables, 2,500 years ago. Nothing we talk about today is new. Agility is not an invention of management consultants. It is not something that organizations have to be because the world is suddenly VUCA. The world has always been VUCA. The world has always been unpredictable, uncertain. The only thing happening now is that it's a little bit faster than before. Since 1983, 57% of the Fortune 100 companies no longer exist. In the last decade, the average age of a company has dropped by more than 50 years. We have more new companies, we have less old companies, right? And if you want to, as Sally put it yesterday, thrive in this market, then we need to have agility. We need responsive, adaptable, resilient organizations that can change according to the needs of their customers. In front of you, you have what we call the domains of business agility. We created this as a community this version about 6 months ago. This is what I call the don't forget model. This is not a framework. It's not going to tell you how to do anything. This is what is going to tell you what you need to remember. You are spending right now tens, hundreds of millions of dollars on your transformation. But are you moving the needle? Have you reached a point of diminishing returns? Because you know what? I bet you probably have. Most organizations at the moment going through an agile, capital A, agile transformation, have been doing the same transformation for 10 years. And don't get me wrong, you're not perfect. You never will be, and that's okay. Instead, however, look at where is the constraint to agility. Who here is familiar with the theory of constraints by Eli Goldratt? All of you? All right. Let me introduce you to Evans' theory of agile constraints, rather arrogantly. Evans' theory of agile constraints. An organization is only as agile as its least agile part. 30 years ago, where was that? That was IT. It took years to bring a technology to product to market. So what do? We develop agile. It makes a lot of sense. Fantastic. Fast forward to about 10 years ago. We have Scrum. Scrum is great. It allows us to produce change every 2 weeks. But where does that change go? Into staging. All right? Does the customer see the value? No. So where is the constraint to agility? Operations. So what do? We invent DevOps. Fantastic. Continuous deployment. What's Amazon's statistic? We can deploy change every 11.3 seconds, something like that. Right. So where's the constraint today? We have an engine that can create change every 2 weeks, that can deploy change every 11 seconds, but what's stopping you? What's constraining your organizational agility? In my personal experience, it's either finance, HR, or compliance. Sometimes marketing and sales, depending if it's a sales-heavy organization. Right? But those are the areas where most organizations today, that's where the constraint to agility sits. So let me introduce you to the domains very quickly. At the very heart of the domains is the customer. The customer is at the heart because that is why you are in business. I'm going to be a little bit controversial. I'm going to say you are not in business to make money. Let me repeat that. You are not in business to make money. You need to make money to stay in business, right? There's a great quote by Frederick Laloux: "Profit is like the air. We do not live to breathe, but we do need to breathe in order to live." So if profit's not why we're in business, what is? Your customer. You exist to serve a customer. You exist to create value for a customer. You will continue to exist if you continue to create value for a customer. Right? And customer centricity is at the heart of everything we talk about in terms of business agility. Right? Think about your own organization. Right? If you don't have customer centricity, it's like giving tofu to a dog. Right? It'll eat it, but it's not exactly going to be fulfilling or sustaining. Right? And as soon as someone comes along with a better meal, that dog is going to go and wolf it down. Right? Agreed? Around the customer, the why, we have the who. These are the enablers of agility. These are the people who need to be agile. Your workforce, the people who create value across your organization. The board of directors, the ultimate representatives of who own the company. I have seen more organizations fail in their transformation and, in fact, fail in business because of poor decisions by the owners than by almost any other factor. Lastly, your partners. There are a few partners in the room here. They have to be as agile as you. And I don't just mean vendors, it can be suppliers or distributors. Again, theory of constraints. It doesn't matter if you can deploy change every 11 seconds if your distributors can only take it every 3 months. You're not 11 seconds agile, you're 3 months agile. Around the outside, we have the 9, what I call the what domains. This is what you shouldn't forget. Under leadership, people management. Sally put it perfectly. I believe we need to reclaim the idea of management. It's become a dirty word. Everyone wants to be a leader, nobody wants to be a manager. And yet, manager, the role of a manager is fundamentally critical. We know for a fact that more people resign from companies because of a bad manager than any other reason, by far. Management, and specifically people management, I couldn't give a damn about process management. People management is a fundamental factor. One team, the sense of unity, the sense of common purpose. I'll be honest, I think this is the number one factor in our society which is destroying all of us. The fact that we have tribalism, the fact that it's us versus them. It doesn't really matter who us versus them is. I don't know. Oh God, who are American sports teams? Green Bay Packers versus I have no idea who they are. I don't know. Politics. Democrats versus Republicans. Liberal versus Labour. In Australia, it doesn't really matter, but we have tribalism. Us versus them. In your company, the siloed, selfish, tribal nature takes hold and destroys companies. Strategic agility. The sense of an emergent strategy. Gone are the days of the 5-year plan. They've never worked, right? But companies are realizing this now. Individuals. The domains under individuals relate to you and everyone who is around you. The growth mindset, the ability to learn and experiment, and the desire to do so continuously. Ownership and accountability, right? The two-sided sword. Right? I take ownership and I am also held to account for that which I own. Craft excellence. In a previous version, we call this technical agility, but too many people thought that meant technology. Craft excellence is important because it doesn't matter whether you are an accountant, a marketer, or a software developer, you need a laser focus on quality, appropriate work. This is key. The last one, operations. This is where we all start. Process agility right there in the center. Most of you are probably investing very heavily right now in process agility. Scrum, Kanban, XP, enterprise agility, SAFe, less. This is about doing work in an agile way. I have a process, the software development process, the marketing process. I need to make these agile. Yes. Enterprise agility, we have one process, but it's not one process. It is 1,000 processes intertwining to create a network of processes and handoffs. The more agility, the fewer handoffs you've got in that process, in those processes, the better the way that your organization works. Right? How does recruitment fit in with software development? How does the budgeting process fit in with the portfolio process, which fits in with the software development process? And lastly, structural agility. Your organizational structure is fundamentally a deciding factor on how work flows through your organization. People talk about no estimates and, ironically, no projects, but think of business agility as hashtag no handoffs. The closer the teams can be together, the faster and the better all of you can be. So I've got a question for you right now. 30 seconds, talk amongst yourself. Where are you spending today the most money in your transformation out of all of those domains? 30 seconds, very quick. All right, I said I was going to be quick. All right. Table over here, what was yours? Where are you spending the most time and money? Process. Did anyone not say process? Didn't think so. Oh, okay, what was it? Creating. Okay, make it stick. So, next question. All right. Think about your organization. Think about diminishing returns. You've invested in process for a long time. Is that really where the maximum return of your transformation is going to be in terms of your business agility? 30 seconds. Where do you think you should be investing right now? And it may still be process. That's fine. 30 seconds. 1 minute. Talk amongst yourselves. All right. 1 minute. So, very quickly, who said process? Anybody? Which is okay. There's actually no problem with process being where you need to invest. Many companies still need to invest in process. That's the limitation. Where else? What about you guys?
Structural agility.
Structural agility. Table over there says lean portfolio management. Where? Leadership. People management. Someone over there. Make it stick. Growth mindset. Doesn't really matter where. Right? And it's when you think about an organizational transformation, it doesn't matter where you start as long as you're investing your time and energy in the area that has the most value. This is why we call this the don't forget model, because you're running a transformation and I guarantee you've forgotten some of these parts. So let me talk a little bit about our research very quickly. Oh, sorry, I completely forgot. I have this one. All right, bring out your phones. Think everything that I've spoken about. Think about the domains. And I want you to say, just roughly, gut feel, right? No parameters, nothing special. Just go, how are you progressing? Do you think across most of those domains, you're just getting started, right? Pre-crawl. Or you think, you know what? we are damn well the best company on the planet. We're flying across all of these things. Come and tell me, where do you think you are? And then I'm going to tell you where the rest of the world is. Crawling. Internet here, I'm sorry. All right, look at that. I think we can safely say that most of the organizations in this room are crawling. Whoever said run, come and talk to me afterwards, because I want to have a chat with you. This is not a surprise. Right? Globally, the organizations, and by the way, this data is based on companies who self-assess, and B, companies who are on a transformation. If we were to take a random sample of companies literally out that door, it would probably be like 1. Right? But of companies who are making an active investment in business agility, they globally, across every country, rate themselves approximately 4.4, low walk. Which, and think of this like NPS. 7 and above is good. Anything below 7, not so good. Or at least in terms of the maturity and in terms of the progress that they're making. So globally, we have fairly weak business agility, which is of no surprise whatsoever. But companies are making progress. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, and you all have the report in your bags, so please feel free to read through and learn a little bit more about that. The biggest thing that we discovered were the top 3 predictive indicators to business agility success. Right? And of course, let me just jump ahead. The benefits of business agility achieved when the transformation is a success. So, sorry, I'm one step too far. Next. No. There we go. Funding models. Now, this has been spoken about yesterday, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. All right? What I will say is, what does this mean? This doesn't mean that if you change your funding, you are guaranteed a successful business agility transformation. What this means is those companies who rate themselves higher in terms of maturity, and this is based on data over multiple years, so we know that there are trends. This is true across multiple years. Companies who rate themselves highly in terms of business agility all have, or almost all have, very, very strong adaptive funding models. And it doesn't matter, some people are using beyond budgeting, some people are just funding platforms or products or funding outcomes. Some organizations just are using very simple rolling budgets. It doesn't really matter the mechanism. We don't care how you achieve something, but I can say with fairly strong confidence that funding models is the number 1 predictor of success. Number 2 is value streams. What does that mean? It means companies who structure their work based on the customer view of value are more successful than those who structure their work based on some internal expectation of how work should go. There's a really good example coming out of a bank in Singapore where they literally shifted from, hey, here's a process to replace a credit card, and here's a process to replace a debit card. Because you know what? You don't lose a credit card, you lose a wallet. Right? So the customer doesn't want to have to deal with the bank multiple times. The customer just says, hey, I've lost my wallet, and the bank's value stream, the way the bank flows work, should instantly kick. How you internally are structured should be irrelevant to the customer. The customer has a need from you, and how you work should relate directly to that. Lastly is relentless improvement. A culture of relentless or continuous improvement is a predictor of business agility, which I honestly think should come as no surprise. Because if you think about it, if you have continuous improvement, you can pretty much develop everything from first principles. Just one step at a time, just a little bit improve, and you'll have an agile organization just naturally. Nothing else sort of comes about this. Now I'm going to skip these because I'm going to run out of time if I go through these polls. Back one step. These were some of the comments that came out of the report. Right? Once again, you can read these in the report. I'm not going to read out of them. The only one that I will point out is I was a little bit surprised that increased revenue or more money or business success was actually the number one benefit identified from business agility. Not because I don't believe that business agility leads to more money, but because I didn't think we as a community were actually quite there yet. But companies are reporting that their agility and the ability to be agile is leading to a financial benefit. Around the world, there's not much difference. Right? Anyone here not from America? I know we had someone from Saudi Arabia. Yes, UK. Not sure. Okay, so we have a few people from around the world, but what we can say is really it's not that much different. And in fact, this chart lies. So one of the great things about having data scientists is they went through the data. And actually, once you take into account company size and how long they've been on the journey, there is actually no statistical difference in terms of business agility anywhere in the world. Right? Once you're on the journey, it seems like your culture, your organizational culture, supersedes any sort of national culture, which is an interesting finding and one we actually have another research project going a lot deeper into that to discover why. Top industries. Last year, financial services was number 2. This year, financial services is number 4. Right? I'll be honest, I suspect that's probably more to do with the fact that we have more respondents than the fact that financial services has gone down in maturity, but I'll leave that to the banks in the room to have their own opinion on. Right? Consulting is and remains number 1, putting aside the general cynicism that an Australian would have. Most consulting firms do try and lead the pack. They do try and do it to themselves before they do it to other people. So there does tend to be a natural, we are doing it first. So that's why they're coming out number 1. This should come as no surprise. Companies who do it longer are more agile. We know that on average, 8 years is the point to have a sustainable cultural change. I'm sorry to say, this is not a 1 quarter, this is not even a 2-year thing. That's not to say we don't get benefits. We see benefits as early as 1 year. But to have a sustainable change, it's almost a generation inside your organization. Be prepared for the long haul and be prepared for incremental benefits. If you or your partners are promising instant gratification, a 30% reduction in costs in the next 12 months, I'm sorry, you are sorely in for a shock. What we can say, however, is that there are some of these domains which you get benefit from sooner. For example, customer. If you have a customer-centric perspective, it doesn't really matter whether you've been doing it for 1 year or 8 years. There's not actually that much of a difference in terms of the benefit to you. You get the benefit straight away. Structural agility, someone said they should focus on structural agility. I'm sorry, that's got one of the biggest durations in terms of how long it takes you to actually get the benefit, same as growth mindset, because it takes so long to instill a growth mindset into people who don't necessarily have it because it's a choice. Question for you. What are the top challenges that you've faced? No, poll. Sorry. Bring out your phones. Leadership. Ownership, resistance. Senior leadership, buy-in. Resistance, commitment, executives. Is anyone surprised by this? All right. So Who here is in a senior management role in their organization? Hands up. Do you think you're the problem? Serious question. Because I've done these same questions with groups of executives, and they have a slightly different perspective. Yeah. So what you need to understand is the challenge that you might be facing around buy-in or leadership is not necessarily the challenge. Right? There are certainly challenges in this, but just because you feel that leadership haven't bought in doesn't mean that they haven't bought in. It means that they have different priorities, or there are different focuses, or they express it in a different way. Likewise, for the senior leaders in the room, do understand that the rest of the organization often sees you as a bottleneck. And that's not because you're a bottleneck, though sometimes you are, let's be honest, but partly because they don't understand your job. They don't understand why you do what you do. Why do you say no? Why do you slow things down? Why do you need to see something? Now, there are skills in management that need to be learnt, and that's why people management is one of our domains. The ability to create autonomous, delegated teams, right? The ability to delegate an outcome to a team, the ability to communicate a vision. These are skills that a leader does need to have. And if you don't have those skills, then you need to learn them to be successful in the future. Right? But likewise, for the rest of the organization, you need to start understanding how it is structured, why it works like that. Because every process, every policy, every decision is made for a reason. And sometimes you may not understand that reason, and the issue isn't the decision, the issue is that you don't understand, and that's something for you as an individual as a learning growth. Right? To go, why are they making these decisions? Why does the CFO want this information? Why do we have these processes? Does that make sense? You'd be of no surprise that globally leadership is still the number one self-determined challenge. Change management comes as number two. Right? To Sally's point, make it stick. Right? This is a challenge for companies all around the world. Culture and mindset. These are amorphous concepts, but people still feel them as being a key challenge to their transformation. When we look at an agile organization, I want you to think of a couple of very key, very important, very intrinsic reasons why you should care. Number one, as an organization, let me come back. Each of you spends most of your waking life at work, thinking about work, on your phone working. Right? We spend more time at work, thinking about work, than even with our families. This isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying that we need to change, we need to have more focus on families, though some people certainly do. But what I am saying is, if this is the focus, work should be the best part of your life. Anything less is abuse, self-abuse. You should go to work, and everyone around you should go to work, and you should create a company where those who come to work feel proud, feel joy, feel like they are achieving something of value, so that they know why they're doing what they're doing, and the benefit to the customer that they are creating. If work is not the best part of your life, and you're spending most of your waking, living time doing it, then we have a fundamental problem in the structure of how we work. This is not about agile. This is not about Scrum. This is not about being more adaptable. This is just basic human dignity. And that's kind of the end of the story. This is why we exist. This is what the transformations you're doing are all about. At the end of the day, we say that an agile organization makes more money. Great. But at the end of the day, an agile organization creates dignity for those who work within it, creates an engaged, happy, joyful workforce. It's not to say that every day is the best day of your life. There are days which absolutely suck. But on the whole, you are proud and your heart is lifted with the concept of going into work. So very quickly, where's Tony? We have, our role as an organization is to advocate and promote business agility around the world. One of the ways we do this is through local chapters and meetups. For those of you in the Atlanta region, go and have a chat with Tony during one of the breaks. He's one of the leaders of the Atlanta Business Agility Meetup, which, every month you meet, thereabouts. If you have a story you want to share, always looking for good stories there. So remember his face and go meet him during the break. Thank you. Can I get my slides? I've got one more slide I need to show through. Sorry, very quickly. Very quickly about who we are. I don't like doing the whole sales pitch and so forth. Luckily, I'm not a consultant, so I'm not trying to sell you anything. What I will say is that as a community organization, our purpose is to connect you. We will connect people with information through our library, through our case studies. We'll connect people with other people through the conferences and through the BAMs. All right? We'll connect people with expertise through our research. We have 8 research projects going at the moment. And if you are interested in volunteering in either the local communities or volunteering as part of the research or volunteering to help create content in the library, we're always looking for that. For the companies, right, through the accreditation, we have data to benchmark you. And I know there was a talk yesterday about we don't care about what anyone else thinks or how they're going. It's a personal journey. Not every organization quite believes the same, and if you do want to know where you're going, we have data for those benchmarks. Sally is someone who's been encouraging me to do this because she's an amazing person. We run executive forums, and we do procurement advisory for people who are hiring consultants to do business agility. So as a community organization, as a research organization, our job is to help you in your transformation so that you can be more successful with whoever your partners are, with however you're doing it internally. We're not going to tell you how to do it. We're just going to help you remember what not to forget. Now, thank you very much.